Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron from God a Minute. The question of this video is is this: Is that 17 about to be fulfilled, or has it been fulfilled already? Well, we're going to answer those questions. We're going to try to anyway. We're going to go through some history. So this is going to be one of those head crunching. You got to think kind of hard. It's going to be a lot of information in this video, but we're going to start off real nice and easy. And so, we're gonna wait for a few more people to come into the chat. This is live October 4th, 2024 at around 3 o'clock EST time right now, okay? So, I'm glad you guys are with us. Good to see everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey, Bill. Hey, Gregory. Hey, Mommy. Hey, Pierce. Hey, Millennium people. Hey, follower Bert DeVries. What's going on? And I'm sure people will trickle in as we go. Crystal, Bill, Kristen, Lonnie, awesome to see you guys. Wonderful. I had a question. I wanna ask you guys a question, so I just wanna give it maybe another 60 seconds, let people kinda trickle in here. Hey, Desiree, Maple, and SW. Good to see everybody popping in. I have a question for you, but I just wanna just wait maybe, another 20, 30 seconds, just let people kinda trickle in here into the live stream. Brenda from Boston, tell us where you're from while we're waiting here. And, Amanda, how you doing? Sammy, Bobby, blessings to you too. Awesome. Good to see you. So again, this is going to be a video on Isaiah 17, and has it been fulfilled? Or is it going to be fulfilled? That kind of thing. And we're gonna go through the history of the Bible to help us understand um, this question. Diane is from Alaska. Jules is from Ontario. Jackie, good to see everybody. So, and just to, before I start to, this is a Rapture channel. We believe that the Rapture happens before the 7 years of Jacob's trouble. We are waiting to go, and while we're waiting, we're studying. We're in the middle of the fall feast right now. Most of you know that I've been thinking and looking towards June 2025 as a potential Rapture timing. I'm always looking at Rapture potential dates. But while we wait, we gotta study. And so there's kind of two groups in this Rapture community. There's one group that's super conservative that says don't say anything about any dates at all, like never, ever, ever talk about dates. Then there's another group in the Rapture community that they look at the barcode on their Kleenex box and all of a sudden they got a Rapture. It's very sensational. So we kind of have like a really sensational Rapture group, and we have a really conservative Rapture group that says don't do anything about dates. We have a sensational group that says let's look at Kleenex boxes and serial barcodes and license plates and how much is my gas bill? What's the Strong's number of my gas bill? So I'm trying to be a bit of a middleman between the really sensational people and the conservative people. Um, I'm right in the middle of it all, and so I'm excited. I want Jesus to come as fast as possible, but right now we're gonna do a nice, kind of a more conservative study, and we're gonna help each other out here. Okay, so this is the question before we get into like a lot of stuff because we need to address our brains first. How we're gonna analyze information, how we're gonna receive this message, because this is important. Okay, I just saw a comment from a brother. I won't say his name. I think he's with us though, and it's really funny. So I'm gonna ask you this question. Don't Google it. Because what we're trying to do is address our attitudes and the way we receive information. Okay, here's the question: Why does toilet water spin in different directions in the world? I want you to type why. What's the answer? Why does toilet water spin in different directions of the world when you flush it? Okay, we're just using this as an example right now. Okay, to try and address our mind and how we respond to information. So, tell me kind of briefly, when you flush the toilet, why does it flush in different directions in different parts of the world? So it has to so Justice says has to do with the poles. Somebody says upside down. Somebody says gravity, magnetism, the side of the equator, north, south, that's what a lot of people are saying. Depends on which side of the equator. Okay, and if you're watching this video later, of course, you just think about your answer without Googling it. So everybody's giving all these really extravagant, answers, the gravity and the poles. Desiree says, "I never noticed." Amanda says, "Clueless." Robin says, "Hemisphere." Rotation of the Earth, says Lonnie. Okay, so we get the point. Okay, you ready? Okay, be ready for this truth here. What I'm trying to get to you right now is this. How you're gonna respond to the truth that I'm telling you, some of you are not gonna be happy with it, but you've gotta be willing to change your mind. Okay, you ready? The truth as to why water spins in different directions in different parts of the world has nothing to do with the shape of the world, has nothing to do with North or South Pole. It's got everything to do with the direction of the jets of the toilet bowl itself. If the jets point to the right, the water will spin in that direction. If the jets on your toilet point to the left, the water is going to spin in that direction. Okay? So it's got everything to do with how the manufacturer made the jets. Okay? So it's got nothing to do with north, south, east, west, ball, globe, flat. What it's got everything to do with how the toilet manufacturer made the jets. If they go shoot that way, it's gonna spiral that way. If it goes that way, it's gonna spiral that way. That's it. Okay, so everybody's got this complicated, crazy answer, and it's the way the jets are manufactured. Okay, so now how do you feel after I just told you what the truth is, after you just told me, like, complicated north, south, east, west, planetary coronalolis, whatever, right? How do you feel right now? You might feel embarrassed. You might be rejecting what I'm telling you and saying, "No, no, 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 no. It's got everything to do with gravity and pull and these complicated scientific," right? So you might be resisting it, right? How do you feel? Yeah, JB thinks that their thoughts were correct. But the truth is, whether you accept it or not, it's got everything to do with the manufacturing design of a toilet. Okay? Now it's your choice to either accept that truth or just reject it. Okay? So it's embarrassing to be wrong, isn't it? It's embarrassing to believe that you've believed something for so long and now somebody's coming to tell you something different. It's embarrassing to say I've been a prophecy student for 35 years and nobody's going to tell me something different. I got all the books, I got all the DVDs of the prophecy. I know what Isaiah 17 is talking about. And if any kid comes along and tells me it's something different, it's the gravitational pull. That's what. Well, okay. So I'm just addressing be willing to change your mind on in this Isaiah 17 prophecy because I'm going to bring a lot of stuff here and it's going to be a lot of effort for your brain. It was certainly a lot of effort for my brain. Okay. So this doesn't change my opinion on when the rapture is. I do believe the rapture happens before the 7 years. But here's the intro. I'm gonna talk to you really plainly now, and I got some graphs and maps that I'm gonna help you out with this. Here's the basic nutshell, and then I'll get into the meat of this video, and then I'll conclude it again. The basic nutshell is Isaiah 17 was a prophecy within about a 35-year window during Isaiah's time that was already fulfilled. Essentially, the northern kingdom of Israel partnered with Damascus in Syria, okay? And they came against Judah, the southern kingdom, and the southern kingdom partnered with Assyria. So there was kind of like two teams. There was the northern kingdom and Damascus came together and they partnered against the southern Israel, the southern of Israel, which is Judah and Assyria, and they double teamed against each other. And then when you go read Isaiah 17 again and you understand that, then you're going to understand that this was already fulfilled. So basically, what I'm saying is, we're not necessarily looking for Damascus to be destroyed in our current time. It's a hard pill to swallow for us rapture people because we've been told that over and over again. I'm guilty. Who in here has read Isaiah 17:1 and closed the book? Has anybody just opened up to Isaiah 17 verse 1 and said, "All right, I understand the prophecy. Isaiah's gonna be a reap of human, a reap of what does it say? A ruinous heap, right?" Most prophecy teachers will say, "The burden against Damascus, behold, Damascus will cease from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap." Done. Close the book. Walk away. I'm good with it. Let's start telling everybody that Damascus is about to be nuked, and then everybody just uh, parrots that. But the thing is, we got to keep on reading the whole chapter, and then we got to understand the history. We got to understand the chapters before and after that chapter, and then we're gonna be like, "Oh, darn it, darn it. Okay, yeah, yeah, we totally missed this one." So, again, let me now see if I can share my screen. I'll share my entire screen, and I'll share with you some of the characters, and, um, and we'll go from here. So, I'll go over here, I'll do that, and I'll show you this. So, here's a picture of Isaiah 17 that I drew. I know it's not that fancy. It's not exactly, perfect, but it gives you a visual of the main characters in Isaiah 17. Okay, so what you have is the old picture of Judah and Ephraim. Okay, so if you see in this picture, I'm gonna zoom in a bit. You'll see Ephraim, it represents the northern kingdom of, of Israel, and Judah would represent the southern kingdom of Israel. And so what happened in blue, what I've done here is Ephraim made a pact with Damascus and Syria in and around this time. I'll just say roughly, I'm not quite sure, somewhere around 740 BC, something like that, between 740 and 730 BC. The dates are not this really the heavy subject of this video, although I'll try and get close to it. But Ephraim and Damascus, somewhere around 735 BC, more or less, Ephraim and Damascus, they made a pact to come against Judah. So they made a pact or whatever you want to call it, an agreement. They double teamed Judah. And so what ended up happening was, quite simply, Judah said, "Hey, king of Assyria, King Tiglath-Pileser, can you come and help me out?" He says, "Yeah, I can help you out." So Assyria, this was during the time when Assyria was kind of conquering the world. They were the mega superpower by this time. They were just conquering everybody. And so Egypt was the first big kingdom in the world, and then Assyria came up to bat next. Assyria, more or less, again, the dates are kind of just generally speaking, somewhere between like 900 BC and 600 BC, something like that. So for about 300 years in the history of this earth, Assyria was like the big shot, the superpower. And so this was during that time. And so Judah went to the superpower, said, "Hey, can you help us out?" And he goes, "Okay, sure." So here's the main characters before we read the Bible. So now we're going to go to the Bible now into the meat of all this. But before we go there, you really got to understand these characters. And again, this is a bit of a head thing. You got to put your thinking hats on here. You got to really dive into this with me. This was one of the heavier studies that I've ever done because I'm like, when I was reading Isaiah 17 the other day with the group, I'm like, man, I don't know if this was fulfilled already or not or what. So we had to dig into the history. So yeah, at this time, in and around 735, the Northern Kingdom, like I said, it's called Ephraim, and the king of that time during this Isaiah 17 thing was King Pekah. All right, there's Pekah right there, King Pekah. And according to this chart, Pekah, this is the Hendricks Publishers. Pekah was the king right around this time, so around 752 to 732, more or less, according to this genealogy chart right there. Okay, so King Pekah. All right, so going back to that picture, we have the Syria. Damascus would be the headquarters of Syria, and then King Rezin was was um, was that king. And we're gonna when we read the Bible, you're gonna see that King Rezin and King Pekah came together to form an alliance or whatever you want to call it against Judah. Okay, so that was in around 735 BC. All right, so then the red characters, Team Red, we have Assyria, and King Tiglath-Pileser III was the king of that time that agreed to help out Judah against those other teams. And so if we go over here, Tegla, whatever you call the guy, there he is, between 744 to 727. You'll see his time that he would reign, and this is the Assyrian Empire. Okay. Hopefully, you guys are tracking with me okay. I know this is a lot to absorb. I get it. There's a lot of information. I get it. Totally get it. Thanks for surviving so far. And so, if we go back to that picture, we also have King Sennacherib, which seems to be a prophecy in Isaiah 17, which And I found only one guy talk about, and I'll reference his YouTube channel too because he helped me out with this a bit. But, there's King Sennacherib, he was the future king of Assyria that eventually came against Hezekiah. So that's another story that's like 30 years later or 25 years later after all this went down. And there's King Hezekiah. So if the at the very least, guys, before we read Isaiah 17, when you look at this picture, you need to understand that Ephraim and Damascus were they made a confederacy. They made an agreement together to come against Judah. That's the most important thing that you really need to understand before you read Isaiah 17. And Assyria was the superpower. Alright. So, now that we know that, I think we should go and read Isaiah 17, and we'll highlight this is my online Bible. I've highlighted a lot of things in my hard copies, but I think it's important to just show it you this way because it'll be easier for you to see as well. Oh, that's bigger for you. Okay. Okay, so the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Okay, let's just pause there because everybody has paused on Isaiah 17, verse 1, and they close their Bible, walk away, and say, "This is a future prophecy, and it's nothing's happened in the past." Well, the thing is, you gotta keep on reading. Okay, so at some point, Damascus will be a ruinous heap. Now, I should remind you, this is not a permanent thing. Okay, so some people misinterpret this and say this is, like, permanent. Some people say it's never to be inhabited again. No, that's not what this verse says. It just says they're gonna be destroyed at some point. Okay. So Isaiah 17, verse 2, "The cities of Ar are forsaken, they shall be for flocks which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. The fortresses also shall cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom of Damascus and the remnant of Syria. They shall be as the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord God of hosts." Okay, so what this verse here is saying, guys, is that the northern kingdom is gonna fall and Damascus is going to fall. Okay, so Isaiah 17, verse 3 is telling you that essentially the northern kingdom of Israel, Ephraim, and Damascus is going to be destroyed. This is not just a prophecy against Damascus, it's a prophecy against the northern tribe of Israel and Damascus. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this picture so you don't miss this. You see that? Isaiah 17, verse 3 is telling us that Ephraim and Damascus will be destroyed. It's not just Damascus. We're not necessarily just waiting for Damascus to be blown up with a nuke. The prophecy is telling us that the northern kingdom of Israel and Damascus will be destroyed at some point. At some point. And this happened already in 735 BC. But having said all that, doesn't mean that we can take this chapter and understand and glean from it and maybe make a couple parallels, to the timing of the end. But for the most part, this is a history lesson of this already happening in the past because Assyria that's what Assyria did. Okay, but going back to the Bible now, after verse 3, "And in that day it shall come to pass that the glory of Jacob," okay, Jacob, again, we're talking about Israel here, right? "Shall be made thin, and the fatness of his flesh shall wax lean." Alright. "And it shall be as when the harvestman gathereth the corn, and reapeth the ears with his arm, and it shall be as he gathereth the ears in the valley of Rephaim. Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it, as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost bough, 4 or 5 in the outmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God of Israel." So, these 2 verses are essentially telling us it's gonna be bad. Okay, it's gonna be rough, there's gonna be a lot of death, it's gonna be bad, with the direct prophecy of 735 BC. Verse 7, "At that day shall a man look to his Maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel. He shall not look to the altars, work of his hands, neither shall respect that which his fingers have made, neither groves or their images. In that day shall his strong cities be a forsaken bow, and an uppermost branch which they left because of the children of Israel." Now some people will mistranslate this and say, "Well, see, this is the IDF. This is Israel Defense, Force coming against Damascus." No, that is incorrect. That This verse is telling us that it's because of the sin of Israel that both Syria and northern Israel will be destroyed, okay? Nothing to do with the IDF, this verse, okay? Because, again, it's Damascus and the northern Israel will be destroyed because of the sins of Israel, essentially, and there should be desolation, because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and thou hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength. Therefore, shall thy pleasant plants and shall set it with strange, slips. In the day shalt thou make thy plants to grow, and in the morning shalt thou make seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief, and desperate sorrow. Woe to the multitude of many people, make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like a rushing of mighty waters. These last 3 verses is now a future prophecy of Sennacherib coming into the land in 701 BC, so I'll expand on that a little bit because of this mighty water. What I'll do is, I'll pause on this. So Isaiah 17 verse 12, we gotta go back to Isaiah chapter 8. We're gonna do that and get some context. And what does he say here in verse 7? Well, what I'll do is I'll read Isaiah 8 verse 4. For behold, the child shall have knowledge to cry of my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken before the king of Assyria. So Isaiah 8 verse 4 is telling us that the king of Assyria is going to destroy Damascus, uh, right? And the Lord spoke also unto me again, saying, forasmuch as this people refuseth the waters of Shiloh that go softly and rejoice, Rezin and Remaliah's son. So Rezin, like I said, was the king of Syria, and Remaliah's son was Peklah or Pekah. Let me just go back to that thing. Remaliah's son was Pekah, Pekah, the king of the northern Israel. Okay, so going back to that picture I drew, right here, Pekah, and there's Rezin right there. So we're just reading scripture how these guys are connected in a couple chapters before Isaiah 17. Okay, so there's Rezin and Remaliah's son. Pekah is Remaliah's son. Now therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth up upon them the waters of the river, strong and many, even the king of Assyria. So the waters of the river are associated with Assyria. Rivers of water are associated with Assyria. I believe there's another verse, I think it's Isaiah 7 verse 20, it might be. Let me just check and see if that's it. Yeah. In the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired, namely by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria. So it's the king by the river. It's river and waters associated with the king of Assyria. So when you go back to Isaiah 17 and you read all this, and you read to the end now, "The nations shall rush like rushing of many waters." There it is again. We're talking about Assyria again, coming again, "But God shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as chaff of the rolling mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. And behold, at evening tide troubled, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us." So this is talking about when Sennacherib came against Hezekiah and destroyed tried to take over Jerusalem. And let me just read you that verse, and then we're gonna pause, and I'm gonna summarize all this because I know I'm giving a lot of information here. This is gonna be very hard to absorb all this. But in Isaiah 37 verse 6, the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of Assyria 185,000 people, and they died. And then Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh. We have another confirmation of this in Second Chronicles chapter 32, verse 21. It says, "And the Lord sent an angel which cut off all the mighty men of valor and the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. And when he was come in to the house of his God, they that came forth of his own bowels slew him there with the sword." And while we hear this is the thumbnail of the video, and we see you have Judah, you got northern Israel, you got Damascus above, Israel, and then you've got Assyria over here. A different picture that I've got. I like this picture a lot. You can see the expansion of the Assyrian kingdom right between, 900 BC and 600 BC, more or less. You can see the different kings of Assyria that were expanded, and they're kinda gradually grew and grew, headed towards Israel, and Damascus was sort of in the middle of Israel and the Assyrian movement. And here's another map over here, similar kind of a map. It might just be almost the same one zoomed in, but you see Syria, Damascus, Assyria. You've got the northern and southern, uh, kingdoms of Israel. So let me just take all this information off the screen for a second and just summarize what I just said, 'cause it's a lot. It's a lot. I got more Bible verses I can show you, and I likely will, but, we're just gonna do a pause and speak very simply because I know this is a lot. Okay, so Isaiah 17 was a prophecy in Isaiah's time. Isaiah wrote somewhere in the early 700s BC. So in Isaiah chapter 7 and 8, he's telling us all the players that are in Isaiah 17. So leading up to Isaiah 17, he's telling us all the kings of his current time. So we know that Isaiah 17 was during Isaiah's time, and it wasn't a future thing for us right now, waiting for Damascus to be blown up. All those people that I told you, it all happened. So what happened again, the northern, kingdom of Israel partnered with Damascus, which is Syria, which is King Rezin, and they came together and they formed a confederacy to come against Judah. Judah said, "Hey, king of Assyria, can you help me out? I'll stop worshiping the God of Israel, and I'll worship your gods." You know? And the king of Assyria said, "Sure, I'll help you out." And so there you go. That's kind of the history of Isaiah 17. And King Ahaz was a bad king. He worshiped other gods. He sacrificed children in the fire. He destroyed the temple of God. Bad news, and he was representing Judah. Okay, so bad news, Ahaz partners with the king of Assyria. He basically makes a covenant with death in a way. So then, to get to the rest of Isaiah 17 at the very, very end, now what we're doing is we're talking about the future king of Syria, which was Sennacherib, which came in around 701 BC. Because by this point, by around 701 BC, Assyria had destroyed all types of nations and cities. They were just nobody can beat them. They just took everybody. They were the world power. And so the king of Assyria at that time, Sennacherib, says, "Hey, okay, so before I get there, now Hezekiah is the king at this time in 701 BC, and Hezekiah did everything that was good in the sight of the Lord. He took down the bad stuff. He set up he cleaned up the temple. He restored proper worship to the God of Israel. He was like, "Hey, can you just forgive us for what we did here?" And and so the king of Assyria says, "Hey, Hezekiah, what are you doing? You should be worshiping my gods, and you should be giving me tribute. So if you don't do that, we're going to come and take you over." And so I don't know how many places Assyria has conquered by this point. Maybe they got a record of like 46 out of 46 wars they won in a row. They've got, like, a perfect track record of they haven't lost yet. And so it's kind of very it would almost be it's in a human mind, it's very foolish to say no to Sennacherib and to stand up for the God of Israel. But Isaiah was there during that time, and long story short, Hezekiah said, "God, are you gonna help us out? Because if you don't, we're in trouble." And he goes, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll help you out." So he sent an angel, long story short, and killed 185,000 people, in Sennacherib's army that were surrounding Jerusalem. And so, as a result, Jerusalem was not taken over by the king of Assyria at that time, and the God of Israel showed himself, and he saved. So that's the overall summary of Isaiah 17. Um, there's so much history that happened between 735 BC and 701 BC. I hope this is making sense, and what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show some more Bible now to verify some of this stuff. So, again, Isaiah 17, obviously, the chapters before it are really critical to understand the time and the timing of it all. Isaiah chapter 7 is over here. And so here, again, before we read this, I'm gonna show you that little thing just to get it in your mind because, again, it is a lot of information. Okay, so we if we see King Ahaz, we know we're dealing with Judah, alright? If you see, King Rezin, we know we're dealing with Syria and Damascus. If you see King Pekah, we know we're dealing with the northern kingdom of Israel. Sennacherib, we might not see it in this part. You might see Tiglath-Pileser in these verses that I might present to you, but just have a reference point of who these are and where they're connected to, alright? So if we go back to Isaiah chapter 7, "And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz." Alright, so this king is the king of Judah, okay, the son of Jotham and the king of Uzziah, the king of Judah. That Rezin, the king of Syria, right? I just told you that. Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel. So we've got the characters in place that were all in place right around 735 BC. So they went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told, oh, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. Let me just share my screen here. Sorry about that. Sorry. I'll show you again that picture. And here we go. Northern Kingdom is King Pekah. We got King Rezin in Syria. We got King Ahaz in the southern kingdom right there. Okay, so back to the Bible. And so you can see here, we got Ahaz, we've got Rezin, we've got Pekah, and they're going towards Jerusalem. Isaiah 7 verse 2, and it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is a confederate with Ephraim. There you go. So Ephraim was confederate with Damascus. That's why in Isaiah 17, Ephraim and Damascus all together, because they made a confederacy together. And his heart was moved, and the heart of his people as the trees of the wood and are moved with the wind. Then said the Lord unto Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz. Well, Ahaz is the king of Judah. Thou and the sheer Jasub, thy son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of Fuller's field, and say unto him, Take heed and be quiet, fear not, neither be faint-hearted, for the two tails of these smoking firebrands of the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria, so there's Syria, Rezin, and the son of Remaliah. Because Syria and Ephraim and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee, saying, you're good. So there's Syria and Ephraim coming together. So this is Isaiah 17 in the works right now. Let us go up against Judah and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, the son of Tabal. Thus says the Lord God, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. Well, there's your explanation right there. There's the king of Damascus, which is Rezin, and Damascus is in Syria. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken. There you go. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son, which is Pekah. Okay, Pekah is Remaliah's son. Okay, so there's that. There's also Second Kings chapter 16. Here's some more information here to show you some more on this theme. In the 17th year of Pekah, so this is the king of the northern tribe, uh, 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the king of Judah. Okay, so Pekah is the northern tribe, Ahaz is the southern tribe, or not the tribe, southern kingdom and northern kingdom. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, yea, and made his sons to pass through the fire. Brutal, according to the abominations of the heathen. Darn it. Whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel. And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah. There's your confederacy. There's your joining of Syria and the northern tribes of Israel once again. The northern kingdoms came up to Jerusalem to war, and they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria and drove the Jews from Elath. And the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there unto this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser. Remember, that's the king of Assyria now, saying, "I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me." And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus and took it. So there you go. There is the ultimate fulfillment of Isaiah 17 right here in 2 Kings 16, verse 9. The king of Assyria came up against Damascus and took it, and carried the people captive to Kir, and slew Rezin as well. Okay, so that's 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 what's going on here. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar there. It was at Damascus, and King Asa sent Uriah the priest. So there's more details in there. You can read that. There's also a lot of details in Second Chronicles 28. There's Second Kings 15. What did I wanna read there? Let's go over there real quick. Second Kings 15:27 through 29. Just another confirmation of what we're saying here. In the 250th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel in Samaria. So there's Pekah ruling the northern tribe of Israel, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. Okay, so again, um, Pekah was the king of the northern tribe of Israel, and he sinned in the eyes of the Lord. So it's because of his sin and him partnering with Damascus that God brought judgment on the northern, kingdom and Damascus, because not only were they sinning against the Lord, but they made a confederacy to come against Judah as well. And in the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria. We've been mentioning that. And took Ijon and Ablamekech and Jenona and Kedesh and Hazor and Gilad and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. Okay, so there's more there you can read on that, but we'll leave that there. And did I read you this already? If not, I'm just gonna show you because we got the Bible app open. So Second Chronicles, oh, I think I did. Second Chronicles 32 verse 21 told us that, 185,000 would be killed, but specifically Isaiah, um, 37 was the area that specifically said 185,000 by Sennacherib. Okay, so again, showing you this picture, kinda retelling the story with this picture in front of you. We have Ephraim and Damascus, or in other words, King Pekah and King Rezin. They're in the blue there, and they are coming together, form a confederacy, form a union, okay, to come against King Ahaz in the southern kingdom. King Ahaz says to King Tiglath-Pileser III, "Hey, um, I'll continue sinning and giving you tribute and worshiping your gods, and I'll rip down my pillars. Can you help me out? Because Ephraim and Damascus, right? King Rezin and King Pekah, they're coming against me. Can you help me out? Because you're the big guy." And he says, "Okay, sure, I'll come down." Now what ends up happening later, 20 to 30 years later, is King Sennacherib is now the chief of Assyria. He's the king of Assyria, and King Hezekiah is now the king of this area, the Judah area. And Sennacherib says, "Why are you not giving us tribute like King Ahaz did?" And he says, "Well, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing it God's way. I did it God's way. I'm not doing it your way. I'm gonna restore the temple the way that it should go, bud. You mess with me, you're gonna get the horn. You get the bull, you get the horns, man." And of course, God sent an angel and killed 185,000 people from King Sennacherib. And so Jerusalem was never completely taken over there. And there's a story there with the water ducts, and Hezekiah hid the water and changed the water things with the aqueduct there. That's kind of a neat story. But there you go. That's the basic summary of Isaiah 17. So what we have is a lot of history there. We have a lot of history. Hey, guys. How you guys doing? Glad to see everybody here. So it's important for us to be responsible with this scripture. Now, how do we how do we what do we do with this information? If you hear somebody in our Rapture community saying, "The next thing we gotta wait for is Isaiah 17 verse 1 to be fulfilled," it's simply, um, it's incorrect. It's it's already been fulfilled. It's a big history lesson right here in Isaiah 17. But we are still expecting everybody to surround Israel. Like, we are still supposed to look at Israel, and we're supposed to, because Ezekiel 38, 39, that's kind of culminating and coming together, alright? But we're not literally waiting for Damascus to be nuked based on Isaiah 17. Isaiah 17 verse 1 is not for our time right now. But unfortunately, 80% of the rapture watchers are saying that right now. So we wanna do our kind of our due diligence to sort of, like, understand the history like I just presented, and, understand the history, and most people haven't done their homework. I'm, like I said, I'm guilty. Uh, when you watch your favorite, YouTubers, and they go, "Damascus will be a we're gonna see close. Alright, we gotta look at Damascus, wait for it to be blown up," and it goes, "Yeah," and nobody checks for themselves because this is a lot of effort. This is a lot of effort to go through the history and to go through all that. Man, the last 2 days are like, "Oh, man, this is hard on my brain because this is way harder than reading just 1 verse," you know? But, as I just showed you, I showed you pictures and graphs and timelines and names of kings and regions and all this. There's a lot of history there. Also, keep in mind that Isaiah 17 is sandwiched between Isaiah 18 and 19 and sandwiched with Isaiah 15 and 16, which is also prophetic for the current times that things happen in those times. Yeah. And so just be careful with the prophecy, and my encouragement to you is do your own due diligence and test everything. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I'll just summarize for the people that just showed up on this live stream. I asked people, why does the rotation when you flush a toilet, okay, why does the water spin in a certain direction in some areas? Why does it change in some other areas? And some people were saying all these fancy things like gravity and the rotation of the Earth and all this kinda stuff, and it's got nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. The answer is some toilet manufacturers design the jets to go this way, and so the water goes that way, and some toilet manufacturers design the jet that way, and so the water goes that way and turns that way. So it's got nothing to do with what you've been told. It's got everything to do with how the toilet manufacturers manufactured the toilet. So we've all been told that Isaiah 17 verse 1 is on the brink of happening, but quite simply, it's not. It's a history lesson is what it is. Now, having said all that, okay, so now that we understand the basics of this history lesson, that it was Northern Kingdom and Damascus were put together, and they came against Judah. Judah came and asked Assyria to help them out, and that's why you got the destruction of Damascus and Northern, Kingdom of Israel, right? That's what Isaiah 17 is talking about. It's talking about the fall of Damascus and the Northern Kingdom of Israel. Okay, now put the history on the shelf for a second. Let's just talk now. Now, the thing about Isaiah is he's a complicated prophet. He's got a lot of complicated things. Sometimes he's talking about something, like for example, in Isaiah 7, the very chapter I talked to you about, then he gives us a one verse prophecy about Christ. Like, where did that come from? And so I kind of sometimes picture him as a spaghetti prophet, or just like he's prophesying of current events, but then he'll slide in a thing that's clearly talking about the second coming. Then he'll slide into some millennial kingdom language in between his prophecies. And so Isaiah is certainly a peculiar prophet. It's almost like like, for me, sometimes my attention gets, like, sidetracked, and I see a squirrel, and, "Ooh, squirrel, whoa, oh, yeah, let's talk about the squirrel. Okay," and then back to the subject. "Oh, pizza. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, football game. Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, yeah, let's go back to the subject," and you're just all over. So, some of the things with Isaiah, it's like, okay, he's talking about the current events, and all of a sudden, prophecy of Christ. What? Where does that come from? And then back to the prophecy in the current times that he's in. So, the thing about Isaiah 17, yes, it's it's history, it already happened. Having said that, Isaiah was a prophet that was using the current times that he was in, and it kind of many times he would say, "Okay, look, these people are gonna fall, but something like this is going to happen again in the future. It's not just reserved for this time right now. Sometimes these things will happen again." So, a lot of people think that Assyria can represent the Antichrist, or the king of Assyria can represent the Antichrist. I mean, at the end of the day, Assyria did come against Judah and Jerusalem, and 185,000 people died because of God. He sent an angel to do that. And ultimately, at the end story is that's what Jesus is going to do. He's going to destroy the enemy like that with the breath of his mouth. Revelation 19, we know how it ends. Jesus wins, and the enemy is defeated, and they're gonna be surrounding Jerusalem. So, I also wanna be careful here and say that just because Isaiah 17 already happened, doesn't mean it's like you wipe it off the table and you say, "Don't even think about it anymore." No, no. Th there's pattern in the prophecy. There's prophecy in pattern. Pattern and prophecy and pattern. This kind of idea is gonna happen again. Jerusalem will be surrounded, and Jesus will show up, just like the angel of God showed up and killed 185,000 army members under Sennacherib, the Assyrian army. So will Jesus, the ultimate, uh, angel of God in this context, and will defeat the enemy with the breath of his mouth, and he will rule and reign. And, hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. Do you guys have any questions on this, or do you have any questions at all in general before we move on? I'll try and look at the chat here, and, while I'm fishing for this other verse that I had, where was that verse? Hmm, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it that easy. But yeah, if you have any questions on anything I said, please ask. This is one verse I wanted to share, Isaiah 31, verse 4. "As a lion roars, and a young lion over his prey, when a multitude of shepherds is summoned against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor be disturbed by their noise. So the Lord of hosts will come down to fight for Mount Zion and for its hill." Okay? "Like birds flying about, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem, defending. He will also deliver it. Passing over, he will preserve it." So, there are situations in the Bible where Isaiah throws in little one-liners, one-zippers, one-zingers, and all of a sudden, whoa, we're talking about the future here, We're talking about the latter end here. So, like I said, even though Isaiah 17 has already been fulfilled, it doesn't mean that it's one and done and don't care about it. It's what I'm trying to ultimately do is redirect our attention. We're not looking for, Damascus to be bombed with a nuke. But we are looking for these types and shadows to repeat itself. So we are eventually gonna see Jerusalem surrounded. We are gonna see Israel is gonna go through some hardship. Zechariah tells us that 2/3 of Israel will die. Okay, so Millennium says, "What's my favorite animal?" Pierce 77. Oh, elephant. My childhood favorite animal was elephants. Still is, I suppose. Millennium People says, "Any tips on how to navigate the history and current events prophecy in Isaiah, Aaron? Where to start?" Well, like I said, we read the Bible every morning, Monday through Friday in our Discord. It's been such a blessing for me to do that, just to read the Bible with a group of people. It's been so cool. and we can ask questions. If we don't know, we go look for it together. It's been really cool. The Discord links are in the description box below. So, um, if you don't have the opportunity to join the group or join a group like that, you know what? Step 1, read the whole Bible. How many can say they read the whole Bible here? I'm lucky and privileged to say that I've done it, but I'm also, like, kind of like, I wish I would have done it earlier in my life. I didn't really officially read the whole Bible until I was, until 2020. That's when I officially read the whole Bible in 2020. And if you can't confidently say you've read the whole Bible, well, you're gonna have a hard time understanding the whole Bible if you haven't even read the whole. So step 1, read the whole Bible. That's step 1. And then step 2, read it again, but when you read it the second time, slow down, highlight things, pause, try and understand it. So I would say step 1, read it. I mean, that is a task by itself. Step 2, start to slow down and put more attention on the Bible than anything else. And, and again, going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, I'm trying to marry the 2 groups. We got a super mature group that are really conservative, and they don't talk about dates or anything sensational, and then we got a super sensational group that think the rapture's every 2 days, and they'll make anything up to consider that there's a rapture date in 2 days. And sometimes when you're new to the faith and you just got born again, and all of a sudden you think you're a lot of people think they're hearing from Jesus, and they're having all these epiphanies, and they're seeing things, and they're hearing things, and I get that. So we kinda wanna meet somewhere in the middle. We kinda wanna be conservative and just have this excitement for Christ and just kinda meet somewhere in the middle. And so I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to read the Bible daily with a group and just to kind of see what the Bible says and just hear from everybody, hear different perspectives, and it's good. Question, in your opinion, who might the Antichrist be? If we are awaiting the rapture, it means the Antichrist is already living among us today. I don't know who it is, but my biggest thing for me personally is I think the Antichrist will ride off the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith. So if I was to guess anybody, I would my first kind of prerequisite for myself is somebody that is pro-Islam, pro, um, pro all that. That would be my first step. I've got a few people in mind, but I honestly don't put a lot of focus on that. I just think that it's almost for me, it's a prerequisite to be connected very heavily with Islam, uh, that because I think the Antichrist will write off that system. So, yeah, people have a lot of perspectives on that. Yeah, and if you have any other questions, let me know. Um, again, if you'd like to support the ministry, I've got uh, donation links in my description box. I'm at this pretty much full time. I mean, I've been at this full time for 4 years, and I'm so like I said, I'm so privileged and lucky to sit there and read the Bible a lot, and so I can come back and encourage you with that. And I most people don't have time to most people have jobs and things to do, and they don't have the time to do what I do. I'm so privileged to be able to do what I do, and so it just takes hours and hours and hours just to sit there and to figure things out for us and for the community, and it'll help us understand, when the rapture might be, when the tribulation might start, when all these things, how it's all going to take place, and it takes a long time to dive through everything. So if you want to support, those links are in the description box, uh, and the Discord is in the description box as well. And just checking out anything else. And yeah, and to pick on myself a little bit, um, yeah, I started in 2020, and man, like, I man, I made a video. I thought it was gonna be in well, there was one time when I thought the rapture was gonna happen in the month of Av in 2021. Why? Because a friend of mine had a license plate 2021 Av. So in my mind, I'm looking at a license plate, and I'm like, "Oh, the rapture is probably gonna happen in the month of Av in 2021 because my friend's license plate was Av 2021." So this is what I mean, that's very sensational. It's like, ooh, I look back at that now and go, "Oh boy, that was, no, we can't be doing that. We can't be doing that." But that's what you do at the beginning. You're just so excited about Jesus' return, and you're looking at your gas receipts. Okay, my gas receipt was 67.82. Okay, what's the Strong's number of 67.82? Or you just do this kinda stuff, because the Bible's so complicated at the beginning. It's like, I don't get any of this. You haven't read it. It's like it's a big sandwich to eat the whole Bible. It's a big book. It takes a long time. So the easiest thing at the beginning is to look at your friend's license plates and, you know, look at your gas receipts and look at the tags on your kids' clothes, and there's a number in there, and then you go and it's like it's very sensational, and I get it. I was there. I get it. So I don't wanna discourage anybody, from coming up with rap dates that are really obscure and odd and weird. Um, I'm picking on myself. From experience, I just want us to be more mature and a bit more balanced and come to very logical conclusions. And so for me, right now, now we're gonna leave the very logical side to the shelf, but we're not gonna go too sensational. But for me, I found that it looks like Jacob was 77 years old when he met Rachel and Leah. And so in 2025, 1948 plus 77 is 2025. And so for me, in a very logical way, I'm like, okay, I could see 2025 maybe being the year of the rapture. And I could see 2032 being the second coming. I can see that very logically with a lot of things I've taught in the last 5 months. And so, not necessarily not setting a date, but I'm just looking at this in a very logical way, looking at biblical context and biblical prophecy to try and figure things out. Yeah. I think that the millennium people, you're asking if Rosh Hashanah is gonna be fulfilled. In my personal, perspective, I believe that all the fall feasts will be fulfilled at the second coming in rapid succession. Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Tabernacles. In my personal perspective right now, in my studies, I'm led to believe that the Feast of Weeks is the best candidate for the rapture. So in my perspective, I hope that it's the next Feast of Weeks that's coming, which is in June 2025. The fall feast, you get the trumpets, you get the Day of Atonement, and you got tabernacles. I think the tabernacles, its ultimate fulfillment would be the union of both tribes of Israel and the Gentiles brought in. I think tabernacles will be the ultimate end time marriage, if you will, the spiritual marriage of humanity and Jesus. And so, um, atonement is when the high priest would go and atone for the sins. If you read through Leviticus 23, it's not a happy feast. It's a day of mourning and uh, being repentant before God. And so it's for me, it's not a rapture feast. I also don't think it's the year of Jubilee right now. I think the year of Jubilee is tied to the second coming. So I think they'll all be fulfilled in rapid succession. They'll have a lot of meaning for the second coming. And so I think that's that. The spring feast, we're all zippity doo dah. And when Jesus came, the ultimate fulfillment was with Christ on the cross, fulfilling Passover and unleavened bread and the Feast of First Fruits when he rose from the grave. And so we got this one little feast, a beautiful feast in the middle of it all. It's an incredible one, and it's a one-day feast. Big deal. It's coded in the Bible in so many different ways. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but right now people wanna get pumped about the fall feast, so I don't wanna step on your toes. So go have fun with the fall feast and be hopeful because you never know. I'm only human. But yeah, I'm looking at that as a potential departure timing. And just so you know, I haven't talked about strongly about any other feast since the last Feast of Weeks just passed. So it's actually been a hard journey because people don't wanna hear this. They don't wanna hear. I get it because I was there too. In my sensational days, I wanted to hear that it was every week or 2. That's what I wanted to hear. I don't want tell me what I wanna hear, not what you think I should say, right? That's their attitude. Tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I wanna hear. You got a feast day for me within a week or 2? Okay, good. That's what I wanna hear. Well, 3 months from now, I don't even care if it makes biblical sense. Don't even tell me that. Don't even tell me that, you know? So and going back to the toilet thing, we have to change our mind to let's just think about this really slowly, logically, maturely, slow down, understand biblical prophecy, and see what and stuff. And we're growing and learning together. So, what we'll do is I'll leave that video here, guys, and I'll keep it kind of on the shorter side of things. Thank you for hanging out, and I pray that you understand Isaiah 17. I'm gonna give you one more picture of it, and it's just so before we go, and I'm gonna share my screen and just leave you with this because this is the ultimate purpose of this video right here. Is the purpose of Isaiah 17 is to say that ultimately it has already been fulfilled, not to say that something like this won't happen again, but Isaiah 17 is primarily about Ephraim and Damascus coming to an agreement together, and then they came against Judah, and Judah asked for help from Assyria, and so when you read Isaiah 17, specifically 1 through 5, it's telling you that Damascus and Ephraim will fall and be destroyed, and that's what happened. And so that's the ultimate thing about Isaiah 17. It's primarily happened around 735 BC, and, if that doesn't make any sense, maybe perhaps go through the video again and just go through the information, go through those verses. There's a lot there. It's a lot to absorb. It's a kind of a big sandwich to absorb, especially when you've been told that Isaiah 17 verse 1 is waiting to be fulfilled, and everybody and their uncle says that. So, uh read the word, analyze scripture, study, 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 study. At the end of the day, get tight with Christ. Go Jesus, go. We'll be saying that soon. We'll be coming back with him and saying, "Go Jesus, go. Go do what you gotta do. Conquer the enemy." If you have not entered into a relationship with Jesus Christ, please do so. Please accept the free salvation on the cross. It is not by works. It is all by faith in Christ Jesus. It is his righteousness that gets us into heaven, and it's nothing that we can do. Nothing that we can do. It's by his work that he already did on the cross for you. You just have to say, "I do." He lifted that cup of wine. This is my coffee mug, but we'll just pretend it's a cup of wine. He said, "Hey, will you marry me?" And that was the way you do it in the Galilean wedding culture. You would offer the bride to be a cup of wine, and if she drank the cup of wine, which I'll do right now, a cup of coffee, that means she accepted the the gift of proposal in marriage. And so, do you accept the gift of proposal in marriage from Jesus? I hope you do. And, Romans 10:9 through 13, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus died on the cross for your sins, you shall be saved, okay? Alright, adios muchachos. One day closer, see you in the clouds, and love you all. Okay, bye.